Okay.
And let me know when everyone's ready and we can go live.
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's go.
Good luck.
Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Tucson Humanities Festival. My name is Alain-Philippe Durand, and I'm the Dean of the College of Humanities. Thank you for joining us. My esteemed colleagues have prepared these presentations to challenge and inform us, and perhaps help us seek better solutions to the problems we face in the world today. Now, please enjoy this presentation and visit our website, humanitiesfestival.arizona.edu, for the complete event schedule, as well as recordings of this event and future events. The 2020 Tucson Humanities Festival is supported by the Humanities Seminars program. The program offers premier adult education by top university professors from its home here in the College of Humanities.
All right. Hello. Buenas tardes. My name is Karina Rodriguez, and I'm the recruitment coordinator for the College of Humanities. And I'm also an alumna of the University of Arizona with degrees in French and higher education. Now, before we continue with introductions, we'd like to take a moment to honor the Tohono peoples. So even though we're not physically gathered at the University of Arizona, we recognize the ancestral ties of the Tohono to this land. We'd also like to honor the Pascua Yaqui tribe and their more recent connection to the land and the university. Now, the land acknowledgement has become more and more commonplace and even expected at the beginning of many university events. But we know it doesn't end there. The acknowledgement is just the beginning of a commitment to ensure Indigenous students, staff, and faculty are welcomed and supported on this campus, as well as those from other marginalized groups, especially as we consider our designation as a Hispanic serving institution. Here at the College of Humanities, we value diversity, not only as another box to be checked, but as a foundational principle of human understanding. We know that there's work to be done on campus and in this world, and that's the topic for today's discussion. You're going to hear and learn from students who are doing the work. They are doers and makers and scholars and activists, and for one, I can't wait to hear what they have to say. So before turning it over to them, I'm going to pass it off to my colleague and co-moderator, Marcus, who will introduce himself and then continue to set the stage for today's conversation.
Thank you so much, Karina. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. This is an opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity, and I'm blessed with it. And thank you guys so much. My name is Marcus Hastings. I'm an administrative assistant here at the College of Humanities Dean's Office, and I'm also a graduate student here on campus in public administration. In my undergraduate years, I was blessed with the opportunity to work alongside our Chief Diversity Officer at Southern Utah University at my undergrad. And I have a lot of experience back in diversity back over there. And I was even vice president of activities of Black Student Union. So, I've been around a lot of the culture, and I love to, just spread awareness the best way that I can, because it's very important, and especially in our modern day society right now, and especially the climate that we're in. So thank you guys again for having me, for Karina, and all of our other panelists here today. Thank you. I do have a quick disclaimer for our audience really quick that I do want to discuss with you guys. This panel, like the entirety of the Tucson Humanities Festival, is focused on discussions about equity and justice and the ongoing work needed to move our world toward justice. The College of Humanities is committed to fostering open dialogue and allowing for individual viewpoints to be heard. We've asked our speakers to discuss their perspective and share their insights and expertise with us. And we ask everyone to commit to engage in careful listening and thoughtful and civil interactions. So thank you again so much. And I will go ahead and let our wonderful, beautiful panelists go ahead and introduce themselves, starting with Joshua. Thank you again for you guys being here.
Thank you. Joshua Billy in Asia. So hello everyone, my name is Joshua Billy. My clans are Totsoni Nishle, Tachini Bashichi, Nakaidane Dashiche, Toiglini Dashinele. So I am a first semester Bachelor of Science in Nursing student, and I'm also a third year student here at the University of Arizona. the social justice or activism that I partake in mainly revolves around the American Indian and the Indigenous community here on campus at the U of A. And what really sparked my interest in it is with nursing, the profession, one of the main objectives and goals as being a nurse is being an advocate. And not only that, we're entitled to enforcing social justice, not only for our patients, but for everyone else, including ourselves. So before going into the profession, I felt like I needed to do something here on campus, and what better way to do that than immerse myself in the Indigenous community.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for introducing yourself. We'll go ahead and move on to our next panelist to go ahead and introduce themselves. Malika, can you hear us? Malika, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. My thing froze. Oh, it froze. Okay. Hi, my name is Malika. I am double majoring in architecture and Africana studies. I am a third year currently in architecture, and I'm in my first year pursuing a degree also in Africana studies. What brought me to mixing both majors together is my passion for design and city planning has always been an interest of mine. And since the whole movement, I mean, as a Black woman myself, I feel like it's only right to incorporate the history of Black people of all cultures and ethnic backgrounds into my designs and helping improve equity in the housing, like for affordable housing, sustainable housing, and also just in city planning and getting rid of certain racial issues such as like redlining. And so I'm also part of COBA, the Coalition of Black Students and Allies, and it brought me more into being an activist and being very vocal with a group as I was pretty vocal by myself. So
thank you so much for being here again. Jonathan, we'll go ahead and head over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Henao Munoz. I'm from the College of Humanities. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I belong to two graduate programs at the College of Humanities, the Spanish and Portuguese department, Hispanic Linguistics, and the Italian, French and Italian in French Linguistics and Second Language Learning. Here, I'm basically in the last year of one of my degrees, the Hispanic Linguistic ones, and I'm in the second year of the French Linguistics. And my experience with social justice and activism started here at the United States in Nebraska, where I did one of my masters as chair of the Modern Languages and Literatures Associate President. And also here at the University of Arizona, it continues in the GSPC as a College of Humanities representative, and also as a member of CAHUA, an association of the university workers and staff and faculty members. And something that I'm passionate about activism is representation. And make the voices of my colleagues and of the people around me to be heard. And if I'm studying languages, especially both of them, French and Spanish, is because I believe in teaching and cultures and inclusive language. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you again for being here. Alexandra, we'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Alejandra and I am a senior here at the U of A studying biological anthropology with an emphasis in primatology and German studies. Und für mein deutsches Publikum, liebe Grüße aus Tucson. And I am very interested in everything conservation. So my ultimate goal is to work in international environmental and animal conservation, and social justice goes hand in hand with that. Human rights are animal rights, women's rights are environmental rights. We are one holistic ecosystem, and in order to better our world, we also have to better the human societies that we live in. And so I have been involved in social justice ever since I was young, being super outspoken. Like many Latinos, I was raised Catholic, and I got kicked out of Catholic our catechism meetings every single week for speaking about something that they didn't like. And that's really where my outspokenness started. But I was fortunate enough to get really involved with a couple of organizations while doing my year abroad in Heidelberg, Germany last year. And I'm very excited to continue that work here at the U of A. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Thank you for being here. And then we'll go ahead and go to our last panelist, Sean. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hola, buenas tardes y buenas noches a todos los que están viendo desde España. My name is Sean. I'm in my second year at the University of Arizona. I'm studying a degree in general studies with an emphasis of global and intercultural understanding. I first got involved in activism and social justice actually back in California about 6 years ago. I joined an organization called Social Alternative. And I began fighting for 15 Noun, for fighting for environmental justice and things like that. Over the past almost 5 years, I'd lived in Spain, where I had fought to a more broader extent for environmental causes, student rights, student unions, workers' rights, and rent strikes. And I'm here today to speak about some of those experiences and issues and things that are prevalent today. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sean, for introducing yourself. And again, one more time, thank you to our amazing panelists for being here. It's an amazing opportunity for you guys to spread your message, your story, and just help everybody out with how we can fight social justice and stand for equality on campus. So thank you again for being here. With that being said, I will go ahead and pass it on to my colleague, Karina. Take it away.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I just want to echo that. We're so thankful that you guys made time out of your schedule. I know you all sent me bios and they're this long. You are so involved on campus and off campus and taking classes, in this particularly challenging semester. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us today. And so now, you've heard from us, and now we want to know a little bit about the audience who's here with us today. And so we're going to go ahead and launch a poll that you should see pop up on your screen. And we're also going to pose the same question to our panelists. And so we just want to get, an idea of your experience, especially on a college campus. And so, I'm going to pass this on to you, Joshua, to answer this question. Have you personally ever experienced any type of discrimination on campus? And if so, how did you handle it?
Yeah, so not only was it me, but it was a couple of other Indigenous students as well. And the discrimination came from the highest of the highest here at the University of Arizona. Our beloved president decided that it was a good idea to approach us and in a way to try and relate with us, use a stereotype by mentioning his high cheekbones when it shook all of us, because for many of us, it was our first time ever meeting him. Like for me, I was kind of dumbfounded for the most part, because at first I was just like, oh my gosh, the president is here. He's talking to us. He made time out of his, what I imagine is a busy day. And then just, poof, that hit us right smack in the face. And although with these comments, they may seem like they're not that big of an issue, but after reflecting on it about a week later with the rest of the class, what we found is that many of us, we actually take these comments and we internalize them and we think about them, and rather than kind of outspeaking or speaking out about them, we internalize them and just kind of go on with our merry days. But for a couple of us who did decide that we didn't want to put up with this anymore, we decided to form a group for what we call VOICE, or Voices of Indigenous Concerns in Education. And we're comprised of Indigenous students from many tribal nations, mainly around here in the South and the Southwest. But what we decided to do is form this little alliance. And with this, we reached out to allies and other people who would support us in this endeavor. And through this, we've done a lot of things or for the most part, it's speaking out about our experiences and also highlighting the stories of other Indigenous students who have experienced marginalization, either here on campus or elsewhere. But that's just gonna scratch the surface with that, so we can let the other panels say something.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joshua, for sharing that. And I personally followed, VOICE, or especially as it was created and then to now. And it's pretty amazing the things you've all accomplished, which we hope to hear more about later. And so Malaika, it's up to you. And so same question, have you experienced discrimination on campus? And if so, how have you handled it?
My first experience with discrimination came from my advisor of my college, and it was literally like, I want to say 3 months before school actually started, my first year of architecture. And she pulled me away from my tour group and was like pulling me into her office and showing me a picture of her graduating class from Kapla and asking me a bunch of questions like, what do I see that's wrong in the picture? What's missing? And of course, like architecture is definitely a male dominated major and career, especially a white male dominated major and career. So of course I was able to point out that there's a lot of males. There's about 2 to 3 female graduates, her being one, and only one of the students were a minority and they were male. And so when I pointed out all these little things to her, she was just like, well, you see what's wrong now, right? And you're a unicorn, like we need you here. And at first you're thinking, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this as a person of color, let alone a Black person, where you're so used to insults about being Black or something very negative, like stereotype towards you, that those kind of things, like Josh said, it's just kind of like you might take it at face as like a compliment, like, oh, you're unique, you're rare. But then when you start really thinking about it and sitting on it, you're like, that's kind of wrong. Like, especially because after that, my interactions with her just got worse and worse and worse. She mistaked me for another Black student. Well, at the time, I've never seen another Black student in Kapla other than 2 other girls that were in my graduating class. And it was just a really nasty interaction as well. It wasn't like, oh, I thought you were so-and-so. She was very rude to me while mistaking me for someone else. And it kind of made me think about all the other times I've me as a unicorn was more so kind of like meeting a racial quota for the school. And it brought me into thinking about how we aren't as diverse as we assume we are, and how it isn't fun to be kind of like the only person of color there, or especially the only Black person in a room, because when you do have to deal with stuff like that, who can you run to like talk and gather around with? And so after that, I ended up falling into BSU and meeting Marianne and then joining COBA. And so we've been pretty active with trying to fight for equality for students of different races and backgrounds on campus.
Thanks for sharing that, Malika. Yeah, similarly, I've also been following COBA since the beginning. And so I'm so thankful for platforms like Instagram where I can see, really be a part of and really cheer you on and almost feel a part of it too. So thanks so much for being here. And then Jonathan, same question. Have you personally experienced racism or discrimination on campus? And if so, how did you handle it?
Okay. Unfortunately, I have felt it before here at the University of Arizona, and it was basically in two specific situations. The first one, because of the police department at the University of Arizona. Once they stopped me I was walking around the street near my home. They stopped me. I was sitting without anything. I was helpless. I was interrogated. As international students, we are not trained for deal with police people. So they take advantage of I didn't know what to do. So I was following every single instruction. Even they asked for many information they shouldn't ask for. And I feel violate my rights. And I didn't find anywhere or anyone to say, well, okay, what is happening? Is right that one? And they say, no, they were taking advantage of their power position. So after that, I start following I'm being involving Black at Arizona, Black at University of Arizona, Black Lives Matter, also in the COBA section, and at the administrative level with my advisors. Just because some regulations, some handbook policies only apply for everyone except international students, but that is not exposed in the handbook. So while I have to do like 10 steps, and an American student can do 2 steps or no paper at all, and they are going to receive the benefits. So after that, I encourage myself to speak out within the department, within the college. I received the support of the College of Humanities. And the last step I took was to be representative of the College of Humanities, because it was an unfair situation for graduate students, especially international students.
Thanks, Jonathan. I can imagine it was a challenge, especially as an international student, to come, to this campus. And so I'm really glad that you've gotten to find these pockets of support, within the college and other groups and organizations on campus. And I'm glad that you're taking that and fighting back. So we appreciate you being here as well. Alejandra.
Hi, yeah, so two specific examples come to mind. The first being, so I am, as a Latina and as a Catracha, as somebody who is first, second generation Honduran American, I'm very involved in Central American activism, Central American rights. And so I was very excited to join the Heritage Language Program. As a native speaker who was never educated in Spanish, it was a really exciting opportunity to be able to learn the language that I grew up speaking formally. And I was really disheartened to learn about how much discrimination and also just lack of inclusivity there is even within a minority organization. I think we focus a lot as people of color of the discrimination we face from people that are not people of color, but also these problems are pervasive within our own communities. Being Central American, we're not represented, and we're also victim of violence from both sides, from Mexico and from South America, and those issues are not talked about. And so in one of my language classes, we were reading an article actually about immigration issues from Central America, primarily from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador into Mexico and then into the United States. And my professor, I was shocked, said a lot of nasty things about the Central Americans that were coming to Mexico. She was Mexican and was saying, yeah, well, we have a lot of problems, just like America has with us, we have with them. And it was like, yeah, you said exactly what the problem is, right? That the United States looks negatively on Mexican immigrants, but Mexico looks negatively on Central American immigrants. And I thought that she must have just misspoken. I thought there was some issue. And after class, I asked her about it. And she said, well, everybody here is Mexican. And if you're not Mexican, then you're just kind of the odd one out. So we're going to focus on Mexican topics. And this was not the Mexican Heritage Program. This was a Hispanic American program. And to be a minority within a minority group was a very uncomfortable situation. And also to know that there were no other Latinos in my community that I could speak with. No, I joined this community to talk to other Latinos and then to find that I'm the only one. I had met a couple of other people from different countries that did not involve Mexico, but even that the text that we're reading, the vocabulary that we're using, all of that is very specific to Mexico, and not only Mexico, but Sonora and Sonoran issues. And as amazing as that is, to exclude the rest of Latin America and to also make us feel like we're not welcome was something that was very troubling. And the second issue I wanted to talk about, because I know throughout this whole thing, we'll be talking a lot about race and ethnicity, but also ableism is a huge issue on this campus in particular. Just about me personally, I have an autoimmune disease. And so it was especially bad during my underclassmen years. And there were times where I would have to miss a couple of days of school here and there to go receive medical treatments in Phoenix. And one of those times happened to be during a math exam, and I couldn't reschedule my medical treatment. I informed my math teacher, and he told me that I was making it up, that I'm not in a wheelchair, so I don't have a disability, and that I need to be there. And I was like, well, I simply cannot be there. Here's all my documentation. The DRC already approved it. You have to make these accommodations, and I don't have to be in a wheelchair to have a disability. And it didn't go anywhere. He actually sent me emails that had very foul language, insulting me and my intelligence, all because I was missing a test for a valid reason. And I ended up speaking with the dean of students about it, and nothing was really done. There was an apology. I got 100% on the final exam, and I thought that was kind of my way of just being like, okay, it's over with. But then even this semester, there's issues in the math department with ableism, particularly with classes being online, talking to my peers, individuals who are in the DRC not getting the accommodations that they need, and professors either saying that it's an excuse or using the online platform as a way to say that they don't need to make accommodations, which obviously is not true.
Alejandra, I'm so glad you're on this panel. I think that it's just evident of how, discrimination is pervasive, not only through cultures, but within cultures. We talk a lot about, or we don't talk enough about, things like colorism, right? And even issues of racism within, your own kind of community. And so, similarly with outside of that too. So outside of race and ethnicity, right? It's the ableism, right? It's gender, violence and discrimination on that side. So I'm so glad that you're here today. And then Sean, same question for you. Have you personally experienced discrimination on campus? And if so, how did you?
So I've only attended the University of Arizona once in person, which was in 2012. and I had no issues. Even as an online student right now, I have no issues, and I'm visually impaired. Majority of my professors, if not all of them, have been really kind and understood. We've had discussions about it. They've tried their best. They've done everything they could. So in that sense, I personally, with the University of Arizona, have not experienced discrimination based on disability or based on race, as of yet, anyway, because I'm still here. But yeah, I haven't experienced anything. So, I mean, all the stories that I've heard so far from each and every one of the panelists has been very touching. And I'm glad it has inspired each and every one of them to speak up for themselves and those around them. And that's mainly all I can say on this topic.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. I'm glad to hear it. And then we hope that you never experience it on this campus while you're here. So we appreciate you.
I do want to jump in really quick, and I just want to thank you guys again for expressing your stories and letting everybody know what goes on in your day-to-day lives and how microaggressions and discrimination and racism actually happens. And I think it's important for us to share those stories, and especially when it's personal to us, because a lot of people out there may think that racism and discrimination doesn't really happen, and they think like, we're complaining about nothing, and why are we making a big deal of this when I've never seen it happen? And I think it's very important to let people know that just because you haven't seen it happen before doesn't mean that it's happening. That doesn't mean that it's not happening to us. You know what I mean? So I think, I'm very thankful and happy that you guys are able to share your stories and let everybody know what's going on, because these microaggressions do exist. The racism and discrimination definitely does exist on campus, off campus, no matter where you go. So thank you guys again for that. And with that being said, I do have a quick follow-up question for you guys. Speaking that we are on a panel, and we are in the Humanities Festival, we know there are a lot of different people listening, and they all have different personal experiences regarding fairness and equity in their schools, workplaces, and communities. So my question to you guys is, what can you say about your experience that others can take away and use in their day-to-day lives to counter discrimination in their community? So pretty much, I just want to know, how do you guys fight discrimination? Obviously, the theme of this panel is towards justice. So how do we go towards justice? How do we fight it? And how do we make sure that we promote fair and equitable treatment for everybody on campus? And you guys can go ahead and jump in. Anybody that wants to go ahead and start us off. Oh, we got Sean. Sean, I saw you raise your hand. You can go ahead and go ahead and answer that question first. Thank you.
Yeah. I think a way to fight these types of issues on campus and in your workplace and in your daily life is kind of what every single one of these other panelists has done so far concerning their situations. They got organized. They joined or founded organizations, or they grouped up with other people who had similar experiences and who felt the same way. They saw the need to, hey, no one's speaking up for me, no one's speaking up for them, so I'm gonna speak up for myself, and we're all gonna get together and also speak up for each other. They created unity. They created an organization. I believe the best way to fight racism, the best way to fight injustice is to get organized and to make yourself heard. And that's basically what I do on the daily. I get organized. I got organized in Spain. I get organized in the United States when it comes to work disputes, when it comes to racism. I don't just take it one-on-one. I find other people who felt the same way and ask them questions, say, hey, how do you feel about this? Have you spoken to anybody about this? Or look for resources. See if someone else has already started something, get with them. And those things are, I believe, fundamental in getting your point across and trying to fight for change.
Definitely. And I do think that's very important, in order to make change and to promote change, we do have to go out there and make it happen. We do have to go out there and organize, like you said. I do think that it may be a bit difficult for some people, because some people are afraid to get out of that bubble and, reach out to certain groups and reach out to certain students. So that's why I think it's really important, if you do have that mentality to step out and organize, it's very important for you to get out there and you make a difference and bring people with you. Those people that are shy, go ahead and bring them with you. So thank you for your insight. That's a very, very important perspective on that. Anybody else would like to jump in and, oh, Jonathan, I see you first. Okay, go ahead.
Following Sean's idea, yeah, of course, get organized. Within the university organization, outside university organization, and also speak out, because in some cases, it's not something that is happening only to you, it's happening to all your colleagues, or some of them. If you get organized within the department let's say, internal department governments, creating your own association, and also reaching out the other association that can speak for you. Because obviously we're afraid of retaliation, we're afraid of something that is against us. And we have at University of Arizona, GSPC as an organization for the graduate students, the ASUA Student Association, also COVA, also Black in Arizona, also honoring a voice, and the office of, this is a long name, Inclusion, Diversity, and Title IX. It's a great office because it's the last office you're going to visit to solve anything within the university. And they have helped me within these issues within my department and with the issues within the university. So something that you have here at the University of Arizona are resources, and look for the clubs of the organization to help you out.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so much for that. Malika, I saw you had your hand up. Would you like to go ahead and jump in on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say also education. I think that a rule I definitely follow is I try not to speak on anything that I'm not educated on. Like, so I do a lot of research. I definitely, that's one of the biggest reasons I am also double majoring in Africana studies, is because my knowledge I'm able to pass on to others and properly educate them and be able to say, like, I have an education in this, so I know what I'm talking about. Because I think a lot of ignorance stems from not only fear, but the fear of the unknown. So when people don't really know what's going on and they're just being fed information from outlets that they believe they can trust and don't dig any deeper, it's so easy to have a lot of misconceptions, start basing your life on a lot of stereotypes that you see through news outlets or TV shows, or even sometimes you learn a lot from social media, but you also can be regurgitating a lot of harmful information that's not true. So if like you have downtime, try to get into some documentaries, like audiobooks if you don't really feel like picking up the book physically and reading, podcasts to keep yourself informed so you can have your own opinion and you're not being a sheep and following others because that's what you feel is in, or they kind of align with your morals. Like if you think anything's off with what somebody's putting out there online or talking to you about, and you just kind of have a hint of ignorance with it, then you should do your own research and look into it yourself and develop your own opinion. So education's how I combat injustice and discrimination, because I'm able to bring down facts on somebody.
Definitely. Education is definitely key. And, you know, it's very important for, you know, knowledge is power, and, you know, you're not able to fight it, and you're not able to fight towards justice if you simply don't know about it. So it's definitely important to be educated on it. A lot of people just don't know what they're doing. So thank you for that insight. That's very important. Alejandra, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to add is record. If you see something going on, take notes on it. If you're having a conversation with somebody and someone says something, write down verbatim what they say. I have a pen obsession, so I always have a pen and paper with me, but it has served me incredibly well because I meticulously record anything down. And also that is how all of these social justice movements in this past year alone have made such great gains, is because we know all of this stuff has been happening, but now we have a record of it. And as minorities, whether that be people of color, women, other minorities, our voices have been silenced for so long, but now there's an opportunity for those not to be the case. They cannot ignore factual data. They cannot avoid or ignore recordings. They cannot avoid or ignore handwritten statements, because I know a lot of people don't think that just writing down what someone says has power, but it does. Because if you write down on a piece of paper verbatim what someone says, you timestamp that, that has a lot of power. That has a lot of gravity. People crumble when you face them with what they've said. And it is something that everybody can be doing also. And it doesn't have to be happening to you, right? If you see somebody across the street, somebody you don't know, you have a responsibility to protect them. And not that I'm advocating for different things. I think that you should definitely do your own research, like Malika said, but Arizona is a single party consent state. And so you are able to record something on the street if you see something going on. You are able to record what people say if you hear something going on, and you can bring that to the authorities. You can bring that to higher powers if need be.
That is definitely important as well, because I mean, think about all the discrimination and racism that happens, you know, that we do see on camera, you know, and that proves that that actually happens. And if we, you know, we never recorded or we never got it on camera, we would never know, you know, events like this and problems like this would just happen and we just would have no clue. So definitely that is an important insight. So thank you for bringing that up. And Joshua, do you have any insight on this question? How do you combat that, and what advice do you have for, you know, everybody that's watching here? Like, how do we fight it?
Yeah, so I was hoping to maybe say something a little bit different, but Sean took the words right out of my mouth about organizing and so forth, because if you have that issue, then if you're maybe a little hesitant to speak out about it, and you find that there are other like-minded individuals who maybe have gone through similar or maybe even worse experiences, and within that organization, I'm going to touch on your question about maybe what if they're like kind of like a little hesitant to speak out, they aren't so comfortable with it. In some of these organizations, you're definitely going to find some people who do not have the time for people's BS and so forth, that they are definitely going to say something. And luckily for me, I've doing like a little self-reflection. I've kind of approaching that kind of level where I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. And what I found to be useful, using sparingly, is using like curse words and so forth, but sparingly, because what better way to get people's attention is being loud and using these words, because they're definitely going to listen to you, but also use them sparingly and respectfully. And I wanted to touch on something that Alejandra said about recording. We had an instance in my group with one of the senior leaders, someone who was on the senior leadership team for the president, say something along the lines of that the university almost in a way spends more money on Native Americans than they're ever gonna regain back. And they were shocked when it came out of that person's mouth, but we were like, we say this so many times that we wish we were recording that Zoom call, because when we brought it up, they're kind of just like, oh yeah, that didn't happen. Or they'll give like some kind of half-ass apology and so forth, just trying to cover it when they know what they said and we heard them, but it's just, we wish we recorded it, but yeah.
Gotcha, and that completely makes sense. And you know, all of our answers from our panelists, you know, it's amazing that you guys are able to share that insight, because especially if with you guys being students on campus, you know, it's very important for people to hear student voices. You know, it's very important because you guys are walking those halls, you guys are going to class, you guys are interacting with staff and faculty. So it's very important that you guys are, you know, offering advice and insight on how you think, you know, other people can combat that. So thank you so much for those answers. And I'll go ahead and pass it on to my colleague Karina. I know she has a few questions for you guys. So thank you guys again. And Karina, I'll go ahead and let you take it away.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, everyone. I'm already so inspired, you know, and it's just, yeah, it's really exciting to see, right, the importance of organizing and to know your rights, right, and having this technology like Zoom where we can record, you know, and take action off of that. And so just some follow-up questions that we have for y'all, you know, so Alejandra, you talked about gains, right? Some of these organizations making gains. And so, you know, if we can just talk a little bit about, you know, if you can share successes that you've had, right? Like I know kind of myself, you know, seeing from following some of your organizations, I know there's definitely been gains made. And so if you can kind of share that with us, you know, how have you helped accomplish that change? And what change do you hope to see at the university moving forward? Go for it, Joshua.
Okay, so one of the many things that our group does is, before COVID and everything, when we're able to be within 6 feet of each other, we would hold what we would call intertribal meetings. And basically these would be open meetings to whoever wanted to attend it, whether or not you identified as Indigenous or not. And in this meeting, one of the biggest concerns, emotional concerns, was regarding financial aid, more specifically with tribal financial aid, because with tribal financial aid, there's so many hoops that we have to jump through in order for us to get the money, to receive the money, because each individual tribe, they handle financial aid, scholarships, and many different ways. So we found that a lot of students were having issues with this. And one person, someone who was in attendance, has some power in the financial aid office. She heard our concerns, and what she did was, before all of that happened, we had almost like a liaison for where Indigenous students could go to. But for the most part, many of us, we did not know who this person was, because they did not have like their own cubicle. They didn't have their own office. They were kind of tucked away like in the corner. You basically had to like go through a maze and just to find this person and for them to help you with these. with processing your tribal financial aid. So she heard it, and what she did was she almost in a way, like, how do I say it? Like upgraded his role. And now he has his own space. And now a lot of us, we are familiar with this person. We know now that we can go to him because he's more informed on how to navigate these systems, because for the most part, we do not know how to go through them ourselves. So that's one thing.
I would like to touch on some things I would like to see improve. One topic I haven't talked about, but that I am incredibly passionate about is feminism and women's rights and the rights of gender non-conforming individuals, particularly when it comes to sexual assault. So sexual assault is something that's incredibly pervasive on college campuses worldwide. 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted during their collegiate career. And that is quite frankly just unacceptable. It's absolutely abhorrent. And from firsthand experience, the university has no real means of tackling that issue. The university is not prepared to offer psychological services or sound legal advice to individuals. When I was assaulted last year, I did get advice on how to get a restraining order, and I was referred to CAPS, but CAPS had no actual training in how to deal with trauma. They had no training on how, also the complexities of minority women being assaulted, because that's an even larger pervasive issue. And after that, they were like, okay, bye. And I had to find a community on my own. I had to go to resources on my own, which that's not something somebody should have to go through, but also when it's such a problem on the university and the university is fully aware of it and they do nothing about it. We hear these statistics all the time. We hear how prevalent they are in fraternities and sororities, for example. We hear how common they are within college dorms, but there's nothing going on. There's nothing to protect students. We have these, little lights throughout campus that you can press a button for, and it alerts UAPD. The response time is not that quick. And also that doesn't help students feel safe on campus. That doesn't help students feel like they have actual resources when you do follow those resources and you find out they don't exist. And so I would really like to see adequate trauma training when it comes to CAP services, and also trauma training when it comes to the individuals in the legal offices and also all offices, because most individuals unfortunately go through some sort of trauma within their lives, and the language that we use and the way we approach people has to be better. We have to come at places with much more empathy and understanding. And I think the university has a huge responsibility to get those trainings in place. We have the Title IX training. I've done it as an employee of the U of A, but it doesn't really touch on anything. And, it is all very short, like, okay, oh, this problem exists, even though it affects a huge part of the population, and then it just moves on. So I would really like to see the university take much greater action when it comes to protecting our issues and protecting our safety on campus.
I also want to kind of piggyback off of Alejandra's statement right now, because I too am a survivor and victim of sexual assault, and Title IX was, I don't even know how to describe how Title IX handled it and how disappointed I was, because, just like she said, the school doesn't train their employees properly to handle it. Like, you could tell a professor, like I have to share my trauma with my professors, and one acted very kindly and the other kind of acted as if it was a common thing, and I had to just get over it, move on. And I had to figure out how to handle my own trauma. Like, I am very blessed that I was linked with somebody in the survivor advocacy program that kind of helped, but I still had to carry that burden throughout my whole life, and that entire semester was just so traumatic and harmful for my mental health, because I felt so alone. I didn't hear back from Title IX for 4 months, almost like 2 to 4 months, and they could not do anything for me because it was too late. So I do want to see the university actually trying to help their students who are going in debt for them without having to hear their trauma first. It should be like, here we are, we're here for you, and not having to rely on so many people sitting here crying and having their hearts broken, their souls broken, their mental health deteriorating until they finally decide that this is when they're going to step in and make a change. And so I'm hoping that the university can see this and see other groups that are formulating on campus to have a better environment, and take action instead of having to continue going through this outcry and hearing our pain to finally decide that that's enough.
What an incredible burden to bear, you know, and we are so thankful for you, and, you know, we're here for you and we love you, and it's not yours to carry alone. And you're right that we could all be doing better at every level. And so thanks for sharing your stories.
Yeah, and I do, you know, just to piggyback off what Karina said, and kind of also what Alejandra said, I do think it's very important as far as resources as well, and especially, you know, training within those resources. And, you know, discrimination and racism affects, you know, a lot of people, and that people don't realize that it really does affect people's mental health. And I think we do need to take mental health a lot more serious, and we need to put, you know, a lot more effort into those resources for that reason. So thank you guys again for those stories. Sean, Jonathan, did you guys have anything quick to add, or are you guys pretty much, you know, on board with everything that's going on?
Just to add something related to grad school, that I would like to see at the University of Arizona more involvement from the part of the students, the graduate students, because basically we are here or for being a TA, a research assistant, or taking classes, but we are not really involved in the dynamics within the university. And it reached a point in which you are able, you can listen a professor, a faculty member telling you, don't look for problems. Meaning, don't get involved, because at the end you are a graduate student, you are going to leave, and the problems are within the university. And I think that is a incorrect, a wrong idea to say, don't get involved, don't get in trouble. If you see something, say something. If you don't feel comfortable, speak out. If you don't know how, look for resources. But I think that we need that our faculty members, I know that they are busy with research, they need promotion, I know that, but look, we are the students that we are suffering, but don't look for the problems. Don't look for problems is not a response that you are going to look for when you are looking for help. So I would like to point out that.
Definitely, definitely. And I love that you said that. So thank you. Go ahead, Sean. I'll go ahead and let you take it away.
Yeah, so I want to say two things. One, I actually wish the University of Arizona was cheaper to attend, to where more students could attend it. Why do I say this? Because that's the reason I left in 2012. I'm an online student, which is very different. Online students are very, in a sense, kind of disconnected from the main campus. We have an advisory board, which I attend when I can, to discuss these issues about how we can be more interconnected. But to an extent, we're kind of over there. And the issues that students talk about on campus, although we can see them, we don't necessarily participate in them. We don't get involved, not because we're in different parts of the country and we're not able to, it's that there's no real link. That link is kind of being established, and I'm hoping to see that it is stronger, and that online students are able to kind of feel like they belong to the University of Arizona in terms of different things, in different disputes and different issues that happen to online students that are a little bit different than students that attend main campus or South campus or things like that. And I guess to that extent, I mean, that's where I'll leave it. I also wish it was just cheaper in general. It'd be so much better. Like it would be a lot better, just to be cheaper, so everybody can just attend.
Definitely. I know. I wish, you know, we all wish that, definitely. So thank you for bringing that up. But again, thank you for all of our amazing panelists for, you know, just, you know, spreading that message and just, you know, letting everybody know what we can do as a unit and how, you know, we can make the university better, you know, and it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of work that needs to be done, but we can definitely make it happen. But with that being said, thank you so much. But I would like to speak to the audience really quick. Please, if you guys have not answered the poll that got popped up on your screen, please make sure you guys answer that, and you know, so we can hear your feedback and kind of see, you know, what our audience members are thinking. And we will also be taking a few questions from the audience as well. So thank you so much for being here again. You know, this event wouldn't be anything without you guys, and it's amazing that you guys are here and willing to hear student voices and, you know, how we can make change, you know, as a Tucson community and as a University of Arizona community. So thank you so much. With that being said, we'll go ahead and jump right into our first audience submitted question. And I'll go ahead and let Malika answer this because it kind of touched on your story a little bit, if that's okay with you. So I'll go ahead and ask you the question. So Some of the discussion has focused on the pride of individual and group identities as members of diverse communities, while at the same time noting the negative aspects of being seen as different, even when being seen positively as a unicorn, quote unquote. How do we find a balance between taking pride in one's unique or communal identity and also not being other, quote unquote, other? That is to say, being recognized as an integral part of the general community. And thank you again for being able to answer that question for us.
So I believe like I'm very prideful, and I feel like anybody who knows me, I take a lot of pride in being Black, but I do see it as a problem when somebody's categorizing you as like a token or a rarity in certain fields, especially like after that interaction with my advisor and things with her and I just started going south. It didn't really seem as a genuine, like, okay, like you are meant to be here. We're so happy you're here. Like, this is a huge step in the major or the career, having someone of color, let alone a Black person, because there's only 2% of Black people in architecture. And there's about, like, I want to say, don't quote me, but 0.083 are women. That is not a huge percentage at all. And there's a lot of racism that stems from the fact that Black people are not in architecture, and it's also an elitist major. So it's very difficult to really sit there and say, yeah, like I'm so happy someone said that to me, when there's so many issues as to why that is that I'm a unicorn in this major. There's so many issues to why there's not a lot of people of color, let alone Black people in this major and pursuing this career, because there's so many deterrents that have been set in place from time to time again due to race. So there's a difference when there is pride to be taken, where it's like you're making such an achievement as a role model for other people who look like you, but having somebody who's not Black or not a person of color telling you that kind of thing, it isn't the same. And I don't find there should be pride, especially as somebody of a certain age who knows the history behind why there's a lack of diversity and color in certain fields and aspects of things. I hope that answers your question. So
definitely. Thank you for answering that, definitely, because you answered that perfectly. Because I do think, it's very important to make aware that, yes, we're prideful, and maybe they're giving us a, what they call it, a backhanded compliment, but it's kind of like, as a Black man, I can speak on this myself. It's like, just because I'm a Black man, why does it have to be like, oh, you're a Black man, you're in this, wow. Why can't I just be seen as a human and as a person? You know what I mean? And I think that's very important to note, and I've had those experiences myself, and it's just like, I'm a human just like you, and I'm capable of doing things that you're capable of doing, not just because the color of my skin or, the community that I grew up in. So thank you for touching in on that, and you answered that perfectly, and I think that's very important. Joshua, go ahead, and then we'll go ahead to Alejandra.
Okay, so yeah, touching on that question between finding that fine line of taking pride in that identity is, I think, establishing first whether or not you self-identify as kind of being that rarity or being special, and also having someone who isn't a person of color establish that for you. Like, for example, with me, I like to say I'm that 11th chicken nugget that you get when you order a 10-piece chicken nuggets, because for me, nursing is primarily dominated by women. And not only that, it's primarily dominated by people of non-color. So when I enter into like these spaces, I like to say that I'm kind of like the minority of the minority, because I'm American Indian and I'm also male. So that kind of just goes hand in hand with each other. But I established that for myself, which I take pride on that, because I go into like these spaces where I'm like, kind of like, I take pride in that, where, how do I say it? Like, almost I want to be a role model for other people who maybe are kind of deterred from not entering in professions where they aren't, where there isn't good representation for that. So that's just one thing that I wanted to touch on that.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Now, Alejandra, I'll go ahead and let you go ahead and take it away as well.
Thanks, Marcus. So Malika and Joshua did a really good job about talking about tokenism. And one thing I also wanted to touch on is affirmative action and how people tend to put people of color down who receive these types of things. So I personally am on the National Hispanic Scholar Award. And so while that is an incredibly prestigious academic award, it has the title Hispanic included in it. And I have faced a lot of criticism for one, taking that award, and two, for I've even had professors and people within the scholarship office complain about it and how it's not fair that there's a specific Hispanic award. It's not fair that people of non-color do not get these awards, and these awards exist for a reason, and these programs exist for a reason. And so there's not only is there the tokenism aspect, but we're also able to be proud of our accomplishments. And like Malika was saying, there is a lot of things working against us. There's a lot of programs and institutionalized issues in place to prevent people like us from getting into these positions. And when we are slowly, very slowly breaking down that glass wall and that glass ceiling, then we're faced with criticisms for, oh, we didn't earn it, or we got it because of our color, we got it because of our ethnicity, we got it because of X, Y, and Z, instead of saying, no, we earned this, we are able to be in this position. So we are proud of our heritage, we are proud to be here, we're proud of the work that we have done. But one, we're not a monolith, speaking to what I was talking about with Latin issues. And two, we are not some quota filling individual who is just there because you need some more color in your rainbow. That's, we have earned our positions here, and we are all academics and we are all scholars.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Congratulations. Oh, sorry, Marcus. I was just going to say congratulations on the Merit Scholarship. That's a big deal, Alejandra. So that is amazing.
Yeah, no problem. I was just going to say, before we move on, Sean, Jonathan, did you guys have anything to add about, the question that was asked, how do you take that in?
Sure. For me, it's just not as simple. It's a little complicated. I just froze. There, and I'm back. And okay, yeah, I think I'm back. Nope, not yet.
You're good on our side.
Okay, all right. I think for me, it's a little complicated, and in a sense that I was kind of raised in between two different things in two different worlds. One was raising myself, and then one was being raised by kind of like friends and their families. And then you take that perspective of living in the South and experiencing all the things you could experience in the South, being just a Black person in general, or being just a minority in general. And you kind of not just realize the struggles that you have to go through, the things you have to fight for, and you're proud of those accomplishments because those are making you who you are. It's not just your like community that did that, you also did it, you also persevered. And then I took that to Spain, where I also experienced a lot of discrimination in many different ways. And it was kind of the same. When you talk to different African immigrants from different countries and they tell you about their stories, you tell them about your stories, and you kind of bonded together. It's like, yeah, we did this and we're proud of this. You may get called these different names or whatever, and you may fight against those names, but at the end of the day, you're like, I did this, I'm gonna continue to do it, and you're not gonna stop me because I'm gonna keep going. And that's kind of how I look at it. It's just a constant struggle that you have to be kind of willing to continue to fight against. One, being yourself and being who you are, and not letting just the color of your skin define you, but also being proud of your overall accomplishments as a person and for the community that you're in, whether it's Black, whether it's Asian, whether it's American Indian, whether it's whatever. Because no one else is going to be as proud of those accomplishments as you are. And I think that's the most important thing that we can get out of that.
Awesome. I love the confidence, and I can get that from all of the student panelists here. I think sometimes, we will face things like imposter syndrome, right? When we get here and you feel, you receive all this opposition. And so, but I love your confidence. And I know, that having you guys here, especially on this campus, whether it's main campus or online, that you guys are making the University of Arizona a better place. And I'm just keeping an eye on the time here. We are almost kind of wrapping up here. We have quite a few more questions from the audience. But before moving on to that, I wanted to share the poll just so we can all have a good sense of the audience, and where they're coming from and their experiences. And so, as you can see, the majority there have experienced some kind of discrimination on campus. And a couple have not on this campus, have heard of others. And so it looks like there's a good kind of variety, of where the audience is coming from. And I think that's similar probably to a lot of spaces that we see. And so, some of you have talked about being mentors and being, role models for others. And so I just want to ask and pose a question that was submitted to us before we even started today is just as far as like mentorship for you, when you're looking for mentors for yourselves, I mean, what can mentors do to support you on campus? How do you go about finding mentors? What is helpful for you?
So for mentors, I think that a lot of mine have kind of just fallen before me, which sounds kind of silly, but it's the truth. I didn't really think I would have so much support coming to this school, aside from having friends. But I have a lot of great mentors, one being one of my professors who is able to tell me about his experiences as a Black man in architecture and somebody I can relate to about any struggles I will have in the future or I'm experiencing right now through my education. And that's really nice when you have somebody who, he's not a woman, of course, but there's a certain identity that we can both like have common grounds on, to where we can experience the same, we go through the same struggle, if not like almost very similar, and are able to talk about it, and he can help me overcome certain adversities that I'm dealing with due to that same struggles. So I think when you find somebody who looks like you or can relate to you on a certain level, it is so much help, and especially in what you're trying to achieve and be successful in, for a mentor.
Awesome. And then Alejandra, I saw your hand up.
So when it comes to mentors, I would like to shout out my mentors because I have had a really great support system as well. So Dr. Jacobs in the German department, Dr. Teacott in the anthropology department, and Dr. Netzine and Dieter Steklas in the animal science department. But one thing that I do wish that I had is representation. I don't think I've ever seen I have never worked personally with a mentor that looks like me or has had the same experiences as me. Obviously nobody has the exact same experience as you, but I think that representation, all forms of administration are greatly lacking, and those are improving. We do have more diverse faculty, we do have more diverse leadership positions, but at the same time, I wish that there was somebody that I could have looked up to when I was younger, for example. And when I was going into college, that there were people that looked like me when I was going to these faculty meetings or when I was going to these meet your major fairs and stuff, because as much as I have the same interests, I don't have the same lived experience. And that's something that I wish that I had. But I will say that the German department, for example, is really great. And we have been having a lot more programs and some really great faculty. Shout out to Dr. Duro Puni, who has been super amazing. Her class on interculturality has been one of the highlights of my college career. And so I think we are making strides for having more diversity in place.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Sean, I see you have your mic unmuted. Do you have anything to say, about mentorship?
Yeah, I think one of the best things a mentor can actually do, aside from kind of giving you a take on their experience and the things they've gone through, is listen. Listening is a very good thing. Sometimes you just need to kind of talk about things you want to do or talk about something that's bothering you or whatever. I think that's a key thing that you can do. Not just you listening to your mentor, but your mentor also listening to you. And I think it's already been said, but that they're also able to relate to you, so that they can listen and relate to you and be able to understand you in a way that you can also kind of feel safe and comfortable when you talk to that person, and that you feel like it's the right environment to say what you have to say, not that you have to hide anything or that you can't say this certain thing, just that everything's kind of consensual and there's an open dialogue.
Definitely. And, a mentorship, I just believe is just very important in general. And, just having that positive mentor by your side along the way, even if you're facing discrimination or not, I just think it's very important no matter what. So thank you for sharing those insights, and especially, how our mentors can help us move forward. I do have, for the sake of time, I do have another question from the audience that I would like to ask you guys. And don't be afraid. Anybody can jump in. Jonathan, I know we haven't heard from you in that last question. So if you want to go ahead and jump in and tackle this first question, this question first, feel free to do so. So how can alumni help you and help the campus understand the need for diversity, but not just diversity, but diversity awareness? Because, you know, diversity and diversity awareness can be seen as two different things. You know, we can have diversity, but, you know, if there's, you know, no awareness training or anything that's put into place to handle those diverse students or those diverse faculty and staff, you know, so it can be two very different things. But how do you think alumni can help with all of that? Jonathan, I'll go ahead and let you jump in on that.
I was thinking about the diversity awareness, what we need, because obviously we come from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different socioeconomical levels, but what we need as whenever I become alumni is to keep going with the fight. Like we are asking for diversity, for that representation in the decision makers' positions. Because at the end of the day, we can have the diversity within our campus, within our classes and our faculty, but at the end of the day, the administration is the same people who has been there during several years, and we are like the quota of diversity without any policy that encourage diversity in terms of not only ethnicity, but also equity. Talking about salaries, not only as a faculty members, but also as a TAs. Do we have the same rights as other TAs, depending on our backgrounds or depending on our colleges? So I would say that we should ask for, as alumni in the future, ask for more representation, basically.
Definitely. And Josh, did you have anything to add? Because I know we didn't hear from you in that last question. Just, you know, I just kind of want to hear your insight on that. If not, it's okay, but.
Yeah, no, I definitely have something to say about it. So for what alumni can do is, this might not apply to everyone, but really kind of take a good look at yourself and acknowledge how much power you have over the university, because some alumni, they make very generous donations to the universities. So you can kind of money talk, so you can use that to your benefit. And also you could possibly start fundraising for scholarships for marginalized communities or other to increase diversity, because I can't tell you how much scholarships has helped not only me, but maybe for a lot of us here and people that aren't here. So I think just acknowledge and recognize how much power towards the university and alumni, especially if you do make generous donations to the university.
Definitely, and thank you for that insight. So for the sake of time, Alejandra, I know I saw your hand, I apologize, but you know, just for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and pass it to my colleague, Karina, and she has one more question for you guys, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Thank you again for those answers, Josh and Jonathan.
Yeah, sure thing. So this was just posted, so I don't know if this has been asked, but how have each of you tried to reconcile with your identities at a predominantly white institution? And at what moment did you realize your identity, skin color, ethnic background was a major issue that would affect how you navigate the University of Arizona?
Whoever would like to take it away. Alejandra, I see your hand.
I guess I can start because a lot of my research within German studies has to do with identity, probably selfishly, because I have always had an identity crisis, I think, also being mixed race and also transcultural, being raised in two countries. I've constantly struggled with who I am and what to identify and which side do I choose. I think the first real time I realized that I was a minority within a minority is, like I said, going to the Spanish department and talking to everybody and realizing that I didn't have a clue what was going on. All of these words that we're using didn't exist in Honduran Spanish, so I felt like I didn't even speak Spanish. I felt super invalidated in that regard. But also, I was originally a neuroscience major, and so going to the first couple classes of neuroscience and seeing, one, there weren't a lot of girls at that time, or women in that class, but there also weren't any other Hispanics. And so I think I was faced with, oh, I heard that this whole minority women in STEM was an issue, but then actually seeing it firsthand, looking at the demographics of my peers and feeling like I was the only one was something that I definitely had to think about. And then you have to find that balance of how much do you speak on it? Because I think also as minorities, we get a lot of backlash for talking about being minorities because people don't want to hear it, or they think that we're using it to whatever advantage when it's just simply applicable. And it is an isolating experience, and it is something that we have to reconcile with, like the question says. And yeah, so it's definitely something I think that you have to work with yourself on a lot too, because nobody's going to validate you, fortunately or unfortunately. And you have to find that validation within yourself and also be firmly rooted that you do belong here, you have earned it. Echoing Jonathan's statements, you know, and we are here and we're not going anywhere. So we're going to be in this institution regardless.
That's right. I love it. Any other thoughts on that question?
Yeah. So for me, this has been a really complicated question, much like the other question that was previously asked. And I think like a quote from like Mystic Roots, the ska reggae band, their song title, "A Constant Struggle," is basically a constant struggle. It was difficult going to different parts of the country and then going to Spain. And in Spain, I mean, when you grow up as a Black person, you automatically know. Your parents tell you from day one, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. You got to work 10 times harder than everybody in the room. It doesn't matter who they are. Even if it's another minority, you still got to work 10 times harder than them. So you grow up knowing these things from the moment you're born. There's no like sheltering in place. There's no like, you find this out when you're 18, you find it out. And I've constantly experienced it. But I guess the real moment was when you notice the difference of how Black Africans are treated from African Americans in another country. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference when they say, no, those are Africans and you're just American. They don't recognize you the same way. And that was an experience I had in Spain where that didn't happen. They're like, oh yeah, he's just that Black person. The same instance when you recognize that the way that you're described on the media is not the same as they would describe someone else. They would describe that person from head to toe, and they'll say it's just that he's Black, he's 6'5", he runs, and he had a shirt. Instead of saying his hair color, he goes by description, he drives this car, and things like that. You're portrayed 100% differently. And I think that this kind of made me realize going into any form of academia that it would not be easy, and that I had to not just deal with it, but constantly question myself and find my own reasoning. And I guess it was like Alejandra said, no one's going to validate you on that. No one from your own community, no one from outside of it, not your family, no one else. You have to figure it out for yourself. You have to find your own answers. And that's not easy. It's not something that you figure out in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. You figure it out over time. You could figure it out when you're 80. I'm like, I figured it out. Yeah, I got this. I'm comfortable now. But even now, everyone here could be struggling with a crisis of identity in some way or another. From the way we speak, the languages we speak, the different things we say, the different things we hear, the ways we may misspell a word or pronounce it differently. All those things are taken into account and a part of your identity. And so, I mean, that's how I kind of see it. It's something that will always be with me, something that I have to constantly figure out when I talk with different professors, when I talk with different students and things like that. I make jokes about it, yeah, because it's funny to me and it's how I get through it. But I mean, you got to laugh at it sometimes. If you don't, it's kind of sad. So yeah, that's kind of how I deal with it.
Awesome, thanks, Sean. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, all right, gotta laugh so I don't cry, right? Man, this has been so inspiring. And again, I can't say this enough, but thank you for making the time, taking the time. I know it's a busy season kind of coming up here in October. And so thanks so much for joining us. I mean, this is, we've kicked off the Tucson Humanities Festival. We've had this kind of annual conference every single year. And so this is our first virtual one. And man, what a way to kick it off, and so really appreciate you. This is the first time we've had, a student-focused event. And so I hope this is something that we continue, to host as part of the Tucson Humanities Festival every single year. So thanks so much for being here.
Yes, and me as well. Before I say my final words, I do want to thank everybody that was a part of this and being able to kick it off this way. And especially, this is only my second year, going on my second year in Tucson in general. So just being a part of this is, I'm grateful for it. It's an honor, and I thank everybody for being a part of it. The College of Humanities, all of the audience members, my colleague Karina for working with me to set it up. Our wonderful panelists, our wonderful IT team over in Humanities. They deserve a lot of credit for this. And, our marketing team over there as well. And I just thank everybody for it. And I'm blessed to be here with College of Humanities and just to be a part of this. And just one thing I do want to say and let everybody know is that always remember that we cannot make change unless, we go out there and fight. We have to be consistent as much as possible. We can't be a performative activist. And what I mean by a performative activist is that we can't go out there and just talk on social media or Facebook or Instagram and act like, we care about these issues. We actually have to go out there and make a difference the best way we can, whether that is having a webinar like this or having a panel or having a podcast like Malika said earlier. We have to find ways and bring people together so we can make change together as one. And I think that's very important. If somebody is shy and don't want to jump on board with you, give them a helping hand and let them know that they're here to support them. And I think that's very important. I thank you guys so much, especially, spreading your voice as students on campus and letting everybody know what we can do together, to make this opportunity grow and make changes, the best way that we can, especially with our climate today. You guys see what's going on in the news. You guys see what's going on everywhere. It's so important right now to have these conversations and don't be afraid. So, we can talk all day about it, and I'm very excited about, having this conversation, but I'll kind of leave it at that. And again, thank you guys so much in the College of Humanities. Thank you so much for having me.
There's hope for the future.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.